So hello and good evening, and thank you so much for joining me on this Friday night. It's really great to have you with me on the last day, the 5th day of the 5-day 5 poses yin yoga challenge. I'm Annchen from yinyogaannchen. Thanks so much for being here with me, and I hope you've enjoyed the exploration of these 5 archetypal yin yoga poses. It's been great fun. I've learned a lot, and I hope you feel inspired and empowered in your own practice and your own learning. And also, of course, if you are a teacher, this can give you ideas for how to teach and understand the differences in all your different students, because we all have such unique skeletal structures and bones and issues and cultural and background issues and injury issues. So all these things are really important to bear in mind when we are teaching as well as practicing. So what we've been doing every day in this challenge, for those of you who are perhaps seeing this for the first time, what we do is we explore the target area. The target area is the area where we are stretching in yin. And then we do a practical exploration of the skeletal structure so we can understand how this affects our unique body. And it's really important to remember that always the range of motion will depend on your shape and the size of your bones. And that is where we feel compression, and that is where we can't really move on anymore. So today, what we'll be doing is we're going to be looking at twists. And what I do at the beginning is I just identify a few pointers for the twist. And then we will look at 4 variations of twists. And then we'll do a practice together. And as this is an asymmetrical pose, we'll be going on both sides of the body. And at the end, we'll look at a nice counter pose. So just to begin with, the target area of this, or actually right at the beginning, let's have a look at what is the essence of a twist. So the essence of a twist is that your pelvis and your shoulders are facing in opposite directions. And so from here, we can have a look at what is the target area. So the target area would be the lumbar and the lumbar and the thoracic spine. And then, of course, also the obliques. The obliques are the muscles that we have along the side of the abdomen. And of course, because there aren't many muscles that we can use to rotate, what we do is we use our arms and our legs. So our arms if we are seated, and our legs if we are in reclining twist, to help us to twist. But also remember that you can only rotate according to the vertebra that you have. So in your back. So for example, if you look at your vertebra from the back, you will see that they have these spiny things that jut out. And as you twist, when they get to touch each other, that is what we call compression, and that is the limit to your range of motion. So you won't be able to go any further. And it's really important to be aware of that, to be aware of your unique skeletal structure, and so then you can adapt the poses to your body. Right, so let's have a look now. We're going to have a look at the 4 variations. So what I invite you to do is just follow along. And try out each one. And at the end of the 4 variations, choose the one that best suits you. So if you come onto your mat, and we're going to start now with the seated variation. And the reason why I include the seated variation is basically because there are some of us, because of our body, we can't do, or we don't find it does very much for us, or we can't get into it, the reclining spinal twist. So I would advise those of you who are practicing and teaching, just to be aware that sometimes the seated twist could be offered as an option for people that are struggling with the reclining twist. So variation 1, reclining twist, seated twist, of course. Come into a comfortable seated position, and you can sit up on a bolster if you find that your pelvis isn't tilting forward. So that's really important. And then basically from here, taking, for example, the left arm onto the right leg or the right knee, and then slowly twisting round. So that's it, basically. And of course, we'll be staying here when we get into the practice for each variation. And then, of course, doing it on the other side. So that is option number 1. That's variation 1. So variation 2 now is moving to the reclining versions. So reclining version 1 is called the neutral twist. And the reason why it's neutral is because the legs are at 90-degree angles. And here I will actually give you 2 options to experiment with. So come lying on your back, and I'm just going to have a block free, because it's possible you might want to use a block as well. So come lying down on your back, and the arms stretched out. So here the arms can be stretched out at shoulder width. They can be in cactus-shaped arms, or even above your head. And this depends on your shoulders, how you feel in your shoulders. If you feel any pinching sensation, then just play around with the position of your shoulders until you find a comfortable position. And then from here, simply allow your knees to drop to one side. You see that I'm trying to get my legs at a sort of 90-degree angle, so that would be a neutral spine. And if you find that uncomfortable, what you could do is just grab a block and allow the legs to fall onto the block. Okay, so that is the neutral spine. If you'd like to, you can also experiment simply straightening the legs out. So this is a really nice option to explore. Okay, all right, so check in. How does that feel for you? And then the next one that we're going to do, this is the next variation of variation 3. Same position with the arms, but this time we are going to do it with what we call the rounded rather than the neutral back. So rounded, bring your knees up, and then you can cross one leg over the other. And you can also tuck your ankle in if that's comfortable for you. Otherwise, just leave it like that. And then what I do is I push my hips slightly to the side before I allow the knees to come down. Once again, you can also place a block underneath you. And so, of course, this is a deeper stretch. You can feel it more. It's more of a twist. So just check in how that feels for you. And if it feels too challenging, if it feels too much, then also refer back to the other options. Okay, so coming out of that, and let's go now to the last variation. And the last variation is really one of my favorites, and it's called cat pulling its tail. So come lying on your side and start off just by leaning on your elbow. And now I need to take the bolster away. So leaning on your side, and then the bottom leg is bent. and I hold onto the bottom leg and I stretch out the top leg. And so from here, you can simply stay in this position. And what I do is I, try to twist round so your chest is facing upwards. And then if you'd like to go more into a back bend, simply shift yourself down and you have your torso facing upwards. And then if you're feeling like you really want a better challenge, a bigger challenge, you can grab onto your toe and then just really enjoy this back bend. Okay, right, so those were the 4 variations. And now let's start with the practice. So what I'd like you to do now is move into the variation that suits you, the variation that your body feels like it really wants to go into and experiment with. And I have a little Tibetan singing bowl that I'm going to be using. And when you hear a sound, when you hear this sound, let me just get it ready. So when you hear this sound, this is the end of the first round. So we'll be doing 3 minutes on each side. And what I'd like you to do now is get to your mat and choose the option that suits you best. What I'll be doing, because perhaps you can't remember all the options I've given you, what I'll be doing is I'll be starting with the seated twist, and then slowly I'll be moving into the different ones so you can have a look as you are hopefully doing this practice with me. So remember, the first option is the seated twist. So that would be the option that you would start with if you are not really interested or you just prefer to do a seated twist. Okay, so let's start now with the 3 minutes. So if you're seated, bring yourself in and then slowly twisting round and holding for 3 minutes. Just feeling your spine long and enjoying that stretch. So remember that these twists are fantastic for releasing tension in the spinal column. And often they are used after forward and back bends. So remember, we often use them at the end of a practice. But if you feel that you would like to include them after a forward or back bend, then do that as well. And while you're here, just noticing how the spine feels, noticing how the twist feels for your body. And also remember the position of your legs affects where the twist is felt. And I'll be exploring this a little more with you on the other side. So just so you can also feel how that impacts on the spine. Remember, this is a mindful practice. So if you notice that your mind is busy, your mind is not here with you today, now, on this mat, then just bring your focus back to your breath. And what I always encourage is some type of breathing technique that you could refer to when you notice an agitated breath. Because an agitated breath is often linked with an agitated mind. So connect with a breathing technique which could be simply inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 4. And if you follow this, you'll notice that your breathing becomes slower and your mind less active, less anxious, less scattered. So now slowly, if you have been seated, please just bring yourself round to face the front. And if you have been in a reclining twist, come lying on your back and simply relax. Just noticing the effect on your spine. This is the rebound pose that we do often after a pose and often between asymmetrical poses, such as this one. And now if you have been seated, then you will simply twist to your left, looking out over the left shoulder. Remember to sit up on a bolster if necessary. And now I'm going to be focusing more on the reclining twist. And we can just examine what happens when you are in the reclining twist and you move your legs. What happens with the movement of the legs? How does that affect where you feel the twist? What part of the body you feel the twist? So let's move now to the practice. So choose whatever option you find comfortable. And from this pose of the neutral spine, the one that I explained before, where your feet are 90 degrees, if you just have a look at how I'm doing it, if you have your knees at 90 degrees, this would be the neutral spine. However, if you bring your knees close to your chest and then allow them to fall like this, the twist will be more up in the thoracic spine. And if you bring the knees further down, the twist is more in the lumbar spine. So also when you're doing these twists, bear that in mind, because these are areas that you can experiment with and find which is more comfortable for you. Because, for example, if you have lumbar issues, maybe you would like to bring your knees up higher towards your chest. So there's less, it affects that, it takes that twist less to the lumbar area of your spine. Of course, you will also find if you do the twisted roots option where you're twisting one leg over the other, that of course has more impact on the back. It is more challenging for the back. You may find it more challenging for the back. So always focusing on what is useful for you, what is helpful for you, and also what your body feels like. Just remember, we are different, not just in our body, but also every day we are different because different things are happening to us. We are doing different physical activity. So just remember that and bear that in mind when you are doing any type of activity. So perhaps one day your body feels like a seated twist, and the other day it feels like it needs a neutral twist. So once again with yin, it's really important to be introspective, to bring the attention inwards, to listen to what your body is telling you. And as I mentioned, this could change from day to day. And also as we are asymmetrical, you could also change on different sides. So you could have a twist, which is neutral spine on one side and twisted roots on the other. So always just checking in with the body, starting with the body, focusing on the target area and not what it looks like. Because that, after all, is the essence of functional yoga. And so slowly now, if you are seated, bring your torso back to the front facing forwards. And if you have been lying down, just bring your knees to your chest. Hug them into your chest in the reclining child's pose, or open them up a little bit. Relax your lower back. And just connecting with that area that we've just stretched. And then from here, if you just straighten your legs, I'm just going to guide you through a minute of relaxation. So if you have been in the seated twist, just come lying on the mat. So just take a deep breath in and then exhale through the mouth or nose. And as you exhale, feel the relaxation moving through your body. And feel how this twist has released tension in your spine. Twists are not something that we do very often during the day, but it's really good practice to include it sometime in your yoga practice to keep a healthy spine. So take your last breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Slowly stretch your arms above your head. Give yourself a nice stretch. Bring your arms down and slowly rock yourself into a seated position. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this quick overview of the variations in the twist. As you can see, there are many variations. Revisit this video so you can have a look at the options that are available. And then just to remind you that today is the last day of the 5-day 5 poses yin yoga challenge. So if you've missed any of them, if you're interested in catching up with the other 4 days, I invite you to have a look at YouTube at Yinyogaannchen YouTube or Yinyogaannchen Facebook, and you can catch up with the other videos that are available here. And also, if you're interested in more information, if you are a beginner to yin yoga, if you are teaching yin yoga, and you're interested in more specific information, for example, on the muscles, on the different variations we talked about, then please sign up. The information is below. And you can receive all the different worksheets that I've made available to the people that signed up. And I think that's it. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a lovely Friday evening wherever you are. Take care and keep practicing and keep inspiring and learning and empowering your practice. Remember, yin and yoga in general is an ongoing discovery, not only of our body, but also of our mind. So take care and have a lovely evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.